Anyway, here's what Ade said in 1903 about the very problem that is bugging, I guess, 96% of the average walking around undergraduate today. To study or not to study. To flunk, and therefore to take on the unkind arrows and slings of the howling gales of fate and go down the drain with the rest of the flunkies, or to make it other ways. Two brothers started away to college at the same time. Just before they boarded the train, Pa led them aside and handed them some splendid advice. The old man, he told them that they were now ready to mold their futures. He said he wanted them to stay in of evenings and bone hard, and he hoped that they would mind the faculty and keep away from the cigarette fiends who play the banjo and talk about actresses. He wanted them to stand high in their classes and devote their spare moments to reading rather than to the whimsies and mimical fooleries of a university town. You have heard this too, I'm sure. William listened solemnly and promised to behave. Charlie fidgeted in his chair and said it was nearly train time. So they rode away on the varnished cars, William reading about the Goths and the Vandals, and Charlie playing 7-Up with a shoe drummer from Lowell. At the university, William remembered what Pa had said, so he cooped himself up in his room and became a dig, and soon enough he was greatly despised as a pet of the professor. Charlie, on the other hand, wore a striped jersey and joined the track team and worked into the glee club. He went to his room when all the other places had closed up in town. Every time a show struck town, he was in the front row to yell at the performers and pick up some new gags. He went calling on all the town girls who could stand for his fresh ways, and he was known as the best dancer in the Chi Chi chapter of the Gamma Upsilon Greek letter fraternity. The reports sent home indicated that William was corralling the honors and scholarship, and Charlie was getting through each exam by the barest skin of his teeth. But Charlie had been elected honors. Charlie had been elected a yell captain and could do his 100 yards in 10 seconds flat. Pa would write to Charlie now and then and tell him to brace up, give him a hunch that life was full of sober responsibilities, and therefore he had better store his mind with useful knowledge and chop on all the frivoles and fopperies, whereupon Charlie would write back that he needed 50 by return mail to pay for chemicals that he used in the laboratory. By the time that both of them were seniors, William had grown a fuzzy climber in front of each ear and was troubled with weak eyes. He always had a volume of Kant or Schopenhauer under his arm, and he seemed to be continually in a brown study as he walked across the campus thinking deep thoughts. Charlie kept himself neat and nobby and seemed always cheerful, even though he had 2 or 3 conditions to his discredit and only an outside chance of taking his degree, if that. He was manager of the football team. He had earned the affectionate nickname of Rocky. He was a great hand to get acquainted with any girl who dared show herself near the halls of learning, and by constant practice he had developed into a star chinner so that he could talk low to almost any one of them and make her believe that of all the flowers that ever bloomed, she was the one and only $30,000 carnation. William kept away from hops and promenades because he remembered what Pa had said about the distracting influence of fripperies and the tittle-tattle of artificial society. The only girl he knew was a professor's sister, age 51, with whom he was wont to discuss the theory of unconscious cerebration. Then he would drink a cup of tea and go home at 8:45 p.m. Charlie, at about that time, would be just starting out on the primrose path to spend a lot of time writing his name on dance cards and get acquainted with the real folks who live downtown. On commencement day, William received the Cyrus J. Blinker Prize of a set of found Morocco books for getting the highest general average of anyone in the class. Charlie just managed to squeak through. The faculty gave him a degree for fear that if he didn't get a degree, he might come back and stay another year. So out he went. After they had graduated, Pa sat them both down and gave them another talk. He said he was proud of William, but Charlie had been a trial to him. Still, he hoped it was not too late to set the boy on the right track. He was going to put both of them into a law office, and he wanted them to read law for all they were worth, and not be lured away from their work by the glittering temptations of life in the big city. William said he was prepared to read law till he was black in the face. Charlie said that he wouldn't mind facing a few heats with Blackstone and Cooley now and then, if he found that he could spare the time. Father groaned inwardly and did not see much hope in the future for Charlie. When the two sons became fixtures in the office of an established law firm, William kept his nose between the leaves of a Supreme Court report, and Charlie was out warming up to the influential clients and making a lot of dates for luncheons, and a little golf, some foursomes. Within 3 months after they had started at the office, William had read all the books in the place. And Charlie was out spending 3 weeks at the summer home of the president of a large construction company, who was stuck on Charlie's dialect stories and liked to have him around because he was such a fantastic dresser and made it lively for all the women. Out at the country place, it happened that Charlie met a girl who didn't know how much she was worth. So Charlie thought it would be an act of kindness to help her find out. When he sat out with her in the cool of the evening and gave her the burning gaze and the low, entrancing love purr that he had practiced for 4 years at the university, she stopped him before he was half finished and told him that he did not have to work overtime because he was the boy for Nellie right now. She said that she had him picked out from the moment that she noticed how well his coat fit him in the back. In one of the large office buildings of the city, right now, friends, there is a suite finished in dark wood, magnificent Filipino teak, in case you're interested. At a massive roll-top desk sits Charlie, the handsome, successful lawyer, who is acquainted with all the club fellow society bucks and golf demons in town. When a client comes in with a knotty question of law, Charlie calls in his beautiful blonde secretary to jot down all the points in the case. Then the client departs. Charlie reaches over to a mother-of-pearl button on his desk and presses it, therefore ringing a bell. And Brother William comes out of a side room with his coat bunched in the back, his trousers bagged at the knees, his cravat is tied on one side only, and he needs a shave. But he is full of the law. Charlie turns all the papers over to him and tells him to wrestle with the authorities for a few days and nights. Then William slips back into his hole and humps himself over the calf-bound volumes, while Charlie puts on his slate-colored gloves, his fancy Homburg hat, and goes out to where Simpson is holding the door open for him in his large limousine. He and Nellie then take the air in their $17,000 rolls that he bought with her money. And later in the day, they dine with the stocks and bonds and finish with the theater. And Charlie these days often reflects that it was a great piece of foresight on Pa's part to counsel studious habits and rigid mental discipline. For if William had not been a grind at college, probably he would not have proved to be such a help around the office. And although William gets the loser's end of the fees and is never called on to make a witty speech at a banquet given by the Bar Association, he has the satisfaction of knowing that he is the silent partner, the lesser-paid partner of the best-dressed attorney in town, and the one who is welcome wherever he goes. Now, if you'd like to know the moral of that story, friend, in case you missed it, in case you don't quite see what that story is talking about, friends, and it's quite easy to see that you've missed it because there you are, old Brother William out there, your nose down to nothing but a small bone. All right, here's the moral of the story, as given by George Ade. Quote, there are at least 2 kinds of education. You bet.